Thanks a lot for joining us. 20 people online, I heard. A few people here. My name is Niels Holm Nielsen. I'm the practice manager for the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction Recovery. This line of work focusing on the health sector and building shock resilience in the health sector. We started a few years ago, the end of COVID or middle of COVID, I believe, largely building on other lines of work and other work that we've done on infrastructure previously and promoted by one of our key donors, Japan, for whom both health and disaster risk management are key development topics. So they suggested that we should start to dig into this particular area and see how we could help the health sector build stronger resilience. So that's sort of where we're coming from. We at GFDRR, we have a number of lines of work that attempts to enable what one could think of as mainstreaming of climate and disaster risk management in sectors. So it's not new for us to try to influence how a sector goes about building resilience. It's new for us to try to do it with some specific focus in the health sector. And we have over the last 2-3 years been building a knowledge base, tools, some experience in applying some of the tools and the knowledge with health teams. And this show and tell BBL, I think one can refer to it as, is going to share a little bit of how far we made it as a team, share some of what the tools that we have, the knowledge that we have, and hopefully create a bit more awareness and see if we can spark some reactions. On the internal GFDRR side, I think we are now at a stage where we can start to look also across the lines that we have to see if we can further improve what we do, the quality, how we deliver. Of course, there's obvious links to our resilient infrastructure line of work, but there's also obvious links to other pieces of our puzzle. I don't know how many or if any of the health specialists are connected, but if they are, I'm always curious to hear from what I think of as the demand side, the TTLs that sit in the front lines, manage the bank engagements, are trying to figure out what to bring to our external clients and how we can do more, or how this program is of help or not enough help, or whatever angle it is that they wish to say. So if any of you health specialists are connected, I would love to hear a bit of that. But I have an agenda here. I will pass it on to Mercedes for a few introductory remarks about the work. Mercedes, she now leads the program for us. Several of the other team members are sitting here around the table. A few are connected online, I can see. And then I believe Krista will do an overview of the tools and knowledge, and then there should be a little bit of time in the end for some Q&A. Mercedes.
Thank you so much. I lead this program with Keiko, Senior Disaster Risk Management, and GFDRR, and June, Senior Economist, who now sits with the ECHO region. So I will be very brief. Just to point out the relevance, this morning Lancet launched its first climate and health global report. For the first time, they have included 47 indicators that tackle population health, but also the health co-benefits of climate investments. They introduced 11 priority actions. I'm very glad that going through the indicators and our population vulnerability factors, we are hitting the most critical points. As well, we are directly informing 6 of the action items with relation to health system resiliency. So the topic is getting more and more relevant, and I think that with the COP28, it would have more visibility as it comes. But there is a very big knowledge inequality, especially for most vulnerable countries. The team today would showcase how the existing data and information can inform some of the actions. 2 of the example questions that we're trying to answer, and you will see the work, is simply what health facilities or location should be prioritized for investments, giving two perspectives: the vulnerability of facilities to shocks and hazards, and the vulnerability of population who they serve. The second question that I want you to notice as we're going through this, through the talks is what roles, segments are critical to ensure accessibility of the most vulnerable parts of the population to all essential public services. So with this, I will hand it over to the team. They're going to introduce themselves, their expertise, what they bring to the table, and the technical assistance that we provide to the country teams. I want to say that everyone started remotely working, and we are supporting the countries on all World Bank regions remotely. Still, the team has been able to deliver like a seamless teamwork. Please put your names in the chat box for further follow-ups as we go offline after the talk. And with that, I will hand it over to Chris to kick it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercedes, and thanks everyone for joining us. Dan, could you go to the next slide, please? Hello, everyone. My name is Christoph Kleiber. My background is in environmental economics and econometric and geospatial analysis. I've helped to develop the Frontline report and the methodology framework for disaster resilient health systems published by GFDRR in 2021, and have been working on multiple different country engagements, supporting country operations through analytical tools developed under this program. Before each team member will present a brief description of the technical tools and operational support provided through our program, I would like to give you a brief summary of how our country engagements usually work, which also will reflect the structure of this BBL today. So as you can see on the slide, we usually start with a request for support coming from a country team, health team, a DRM team, and then we conduct a background and country information rapid assessment to summarize the specific country background, the DRM capabilities of the health system in this country, to provide a conversation starter with TTLs and country governments, and to enable us to select focus areas for our engagement based on the actual country needs. Next. After agreeing on the scope of the support, we then provide tailored analyses for population and health system vulnerabilities, hazard exposures, and accessibility and criticality of health infrastructure elements. And in a final and third step, we provide recommendations based on the results of the analysis and also tools to prioritize critical elements for strengthening health system resilience, which enables data-informed decision-making for policymakers. And all of this is possible through the overarching global knowledge products that have been developed and are being continuously updated by our team. Throughout this talk today, you will see this presentation to guide you through the different phases of a typical country engagement and to connect the different elements of our program. So now I would like to give you some more context of the program itself. Here you see a schematic approach of the methodology to increase resilience of health systems with people at the heart of the investments. Besides introducing our team today, the purpose of this talk is to provide you with an overview of the different technical solutions developed to strengthen the 5 pillars of disaster resilience of health systems identified under the Frontline methodology. So one key aspect you see on the left side of this schema is the vulnerability assessment, including people's vulnerabilities in the analysis and not only looking into rough population metrics, enables recommendations that focus on the actual population demand at various administrative planning units. For example, one of our engagements in Colombia, we provided facility level recommendations to the country health team, while in other engagements in Morocco and Tajikistan, we provided national level recommendations. As most of you know through your line of work, defining the terms vulnerability and resilience can be quite tricky, especially when talking about or talking to different target audiences. However, focusing on population vulnerability is a key strategy to increasing the disaster risk management capabilities in the health system and to promote equity in access to health services in case of disasters. Next slide, please. Here you see a map of our engagements throughout the first year of our program since it launched. As you can see, we've supported operations throughout different regions and countries with varying levels of economic development and very different risk profiles, showcasing that our tools and analytics are scalable, transferable, and adaptable to different contexts. Through the engagements, we've provided support to country teams, health teams, DRM teams, and transportation teams to advance a multi-sectoral approach to strengthening health systems resilience. With that with that program overview, I'll leave you for now, and I'll hand over the presentation to Dan, who's in the room today, who will give you some more details about the rapid assessment, which is used as a starting point for our operational support.
Many thanks, Chris. My name is Dan Thompson. I work at the GFDRR team, primarily focused on qualitative and some quantitative assessment with economic analysis, and I'm currently pursuing a PhD in electricity resilience at the University College London. So most of my work for the team is in the front end and a little bit on the back end and how we form the implementation recommendations. But for today, I want to focus more on how we conduct a country information assessment. And our primary tool to do that is a rapid assessment, which we call scorecard. So the scorecard is a tool of 80 relevant indicators that look across three areas. And that's the health systems, that includes health facility and health system, and how that's interconnected, its connection to disaster risk management and emergency response, and then that connection to lifeline infrastructure. Think water, ICT, power, road transportation, which you're going to hear later. The goal of this is we're going to go into a country, we're going to figure out where your capabilities and gaps are by evaluating these 80 relevant indicators. A lot of these indicators are policy targets, which allows us to go and meet the countries and scope the engagement for the analytic teams to inform that prioritization. As Chris has already noted, we've conducted this particular assessment in a number of countries, given its broad applicability. We tested it in 2 other countries, but we found that the data were insufficient to continue with the scorecard, but not to do other engagements. 3 other things that we've used the scorecard for, in addition to scoping and meeting the countries to develop priorities, is a monitoring tool for health system resilience, which we're working with the team in Mauritania to develop a national level tool to do so. The second thing we've done is facilitate financing for DRM and health recommendations. This is particularly at the nexus with CAT-DDOs, and we had an opportunity to do that and support that engagement with the 4th iteration in Colombia. If you think about it, the scorecard is a policy-oriented document or oriented assessment, so that really facilitates a conversation for results, indicators, and prior actions. Lastly, in Belize, we conducted a deeper mixed method assessment of the country itself, using the scorecard as more of a standalone assessment. We identified 4 prioritized actions in collaboration with the government for further action and scoping. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sethi. After we've had that initial conversation with the government, what actual indicators and data do we need on the analytics side?
Thanks, Dan. Hi, everyone. I'm Sethi Rahmani. My background is geomatics engineering, and I'm part of the GFDRR as special data scientist consultant. Switching gears here to present our works on analytical scoping. Data gathering and pre-processing is one of the primary parts of our geospatial analysis. Next slide down, please. On gathering part, we collect data from diverse sources, including open source platforms like WordPop and OpenStreetMap, as well as proprietary datasets such as platform for our flood hazards. However, our key data usually comes from client countries, task teams, and prior World Bank projects, including statistical documents, facility assessment, and more. For example, in Belize, we receive incredibly valuable data about health facility instruction, locations, and their respective equipment from our client. This data has proven to be extremely helpful in our analysis. After collecting our data, then we start preparing for additional analysis. Convert them, clean them, and make sure all data are in the same format. For the Tajikistan, we had number of health statistical documents from our client, which we had to convert them, format, and and work on translating the languages of data from Tajiki, Russian, and Farsi to English. Then we remove errors, combine different pieces, validate, double-check everything, and organize data to be ready for the next step. Now I'm handing over to Miguel to talk about further analytical works. Thank you.
Thank you, Seti. Hello, everybody. To continue with the analytic scoping, I will introduce the criticality and accessibility analysis. So my name is Miguel Núñez del Prado. I'm a PhD in computer science with more than 10 years experience on artificial intelligence and geoprivacy-aware analytics, and 3 years working on health sector and DRM. So in the past 2 years, my work has focused on the program for the creation of mathematical models to be used for health sector assessment and operations. In this particular case, I will guide you through the tool for accessibility and criticality. So the basic idea is to quantify the indirect exposure to the health system, contrary to the direct exposure, which is the infrastructure in the zones that are affected by any hazard. So this approach for modeling this, we use the road network model, and we add some different variables like population, like the exposure of the hazard. All this information, which is public available, or sometimes is given by the different teams that we support. When we process this information, this will give some outcomes that support operations for the countries. So basically, our outcomes are physical accessibility rates, maps that are able to inform the accessibility and the road criticality of a given urban area. And this work has been also published and has been applied to different countries like Peru, Colombia, Tajikistan, Cambodia, Nepal. And the next slide, please. And next one, please. And the next one. We'll direct to the next, please. The next one. Next. The next one. So the accessibility is a tool that is going to, the next one, please. It's going to give us, no, it's the previous one. Before, please. If you can just go. And one, yes, this one. So accessibility is the tool that is going to help us looking into the urban area and the road network to quantify the time that the people need to reach the health system. So the basic idea here is to quantify based on private transportation, the time that people is going to take. We model also the decision for the people to reach the health system based on a model that takes into account all the possible hospitals for PhDs, not only the nearest one. So there is, we model the decision based on how complex could be the infrastructure or the number of doctors, nurses that could be and equipment. So it could be fitted with the information we got from the country to be very specific at this point. So contrary to the direct exposure, here we quantify how the road infrastructure impact on the delivery of the service for the health system. So we are able to compute a baseline analysis on absence of any kind of climate problem. And then to add, based on the country risk profile, we can add different kind of hazards like floods, landslides, earthquakes, or other that the country need. And this will give us this difference, this delta difference that allows us to know what parts of the city are more vulnerable, are more prone to have an access problem to the health system, which help us to inform to the prioritization tool for the indirect exposure analysis, also inform different ministers like Minister of Health, Transport, Infrastructure, and DRM agencies about this kind of problems. In the next slide, please. And the next one. We can also compute criticality. Yes, the next one, please. So criticality is the complementary tool for the accessibility that help us prioritizing the roads that are very important and crucial to reach the health system. So in this case, we can see the heat map of Bogota, where we can see the different streets that are more likely to be crucial for reaching the healthcare system in a case of floods. So again, we run in a baseline scenario the criticality of each road in the city, and then we evaluate the same scenario in using floods or using landslide maps, as we can see in the example, and we are able to see where people, what roads are useful are used to reach the health system, and this allows us to report exactly the name of the roads that should be maintained or should be prioritized for multi-sectoral investment. So once again, this tool also will inform Minister of Health, Transport, Infrastructure, and DRM agencies for making public policies or prioritizing investments. So this in the urban context, so I will pass over to Nadia, who is going to explain a little bit on rural accessibility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miguel. Good day, everyone. I'm Nadia. I'm excited to be here today. I work as a data scientist, bring a unique skill set to the team with my background in architecture and a master's in smart cities and urban analytics from Center for Advanced Spatial Analysis at the Bartlett, UCL. In my role, I leverage my expertise in advanced data analysis, spatial modeling, and data visualization. My focus so far has primarily been on analyzing how natural disasters impact both urban and rural networks. The tools we have developed have played a crucial role in shaping our approach to providing specialized analytics support to country teams. The first engagement I would like to highlight is with the World Bank Transport team. Our analytics have supported the team in a project to upgrade rural roads in Peru with a goal of prioritizing access to health and education in areas prone to natural hazards. I'd like to discuss a crucial aspect of our work, the identification of essential roads that play a pivotal role in ensuring accessibility of population to vital services, such as healthcare, education, and markets. These roads serve as lifelines, enabling people to access healthcare facilities when they're in need, ensuring that children can reach schools for education, and connecting individuals to markets where they can buy and sell goods. These critical roads are the arteries of our infrastructure network, and their importance cannot be overstated. Once we've identified these critical roads, our next step is to assess their accessibility under different circumstances. Like Miguel mentioned briefly, we calculate a baseline accessibility metric, which serves as a benchmark for understanding how easily a population can reach these vital services. We do this analysis for scenarios where there are no hazards affecting the road network, and in scenarios where a flood or a landslide, for example, has caused damage to the road network. This allows us to understand the impact of those hazards on accessibility. In essence, we are striving to achieve is a comprehensive understanding of accessibility within a given region or country. I'd like to mention here that our tools can be adjusted to work at different scales, for example, a city or a country. We want to know how the population can access essential services under normal conditions and how that accessibility changes when the system is affected by a natural disaster. Based on this knowledge, we help governments to make informed decisions on how to improve the resilience of infrastructure to ensure that the communities can always reach the services they depend on, regardless of the circumstances. Our focus on identifying critical roads and computing baseline accessibility metrics underscores our commitment to inform countries on how to ensure that the infrastructure networks are robust and resilient and serve their population's needs, especially during challenging times. By doing so, we aim to enhance well-being and prosperity of the communities and ensure that essential services remain within reach for all. And one of our current tools under development is targeting specifically rural areas. There are further challenges which we are looking to address, such as limited road network data and computations at scale. Another project I want to share with you today is a case example that underscores the importance of adjusting our methodology to a country's context and how the results of a careful analysis influenced the 10-year health plan in Tajikistan. It's essential to recognize that, It's essential to recognize that each country has its unique healthcare challenges, with varying needs, resources, and circumstances. Therefore, the ability to adapt tools and strategies to the specific country context is important. This adaptability allows for tailoring healthcare resilience solutions, but are effective and relevant. Our support began with a comprehensive analysis of a country's healthcare system and its vulnerabilities in the face of disasters. This meticulous approach allowed us for a deeper understanding of the disaster risk within the healthcare system. Equally crucial was the identification of areas that contain certain population groups which are particularly vulnerable during disasters, such as elderly and children. It became clear that proactive steps were necessary to protect these vulnerable segments of the population. With these insights in hand, the health team had the knowledge needed to make informed decisions. In conclusion, through the adjustment of tools to the country context, conducting detailed analysis and making data-driven decisions, this illustrative country case has successfully influenced the design of its 10-year health national plan. This plan now includes robust measures for disaster resilience and strategies to safeguard the most vulnerable citizens during crisis. This case example demonstrates the power of adaptability and evidence-based decision-making, ensuring that healthcare systems are not only examined in isolation, but are considered as part of a larger network. Thank you for your attention. Now I would like to hand over to my colleague, John, who is going to explain the prioritization process.
Good afternoon. My name is John Barrera. I am a computer scientist, and my contribution involved with working with the code and doing some calculation. In this section, we are going to talk about prioritization. The prioritization is going to be a value that is going to serve us to identify which region, which hospital should be prioritized. Please, next. So in this section, our goal is going to establish a prioritization rank for population and health infrastructures. In health infrastructure, we are going to have PHC, that are facilities of category 1, and hospital, that are category 2 and category 3 facilities. These methodologies support any territorial level, for example, national or subnational levels like province or districts. Our approach is relied on certain national criteria to drive prioritization, and our inputs is going to be all the previous results. For example, population exposure, healthcare facilities exposure to hazards like floods, landslides, and other kind of hazards. Physical accessibility rights, times to roads, of access also. In general, we are talking of socio-demographic characteristics and healthcare facilities infrastructure features. And our outputs are going to be the rank for prioritization to population and the healthcare facilities rank for prioritization. Next, please. Here we are going to talk about the methodology. Like as I mentioned previously, we are going to have all the previous results. These results are going to be organized in a table where each row will contain the variable of each territorial unit. Each row are going to be called vector X. By another hand, we are going to have an ideal vector. This ideal vector is a capture of the country objectives in every aspect of the study. And the methodology consists in 3 steps. First, we are going to use a mathematical technique to measure the similarities between vector X and vector Y. So the result of measure these similarities is going to be the priority. Then, by ordering the results, we are going to get a rank of prioritization. However, we want to go further. And using a machine learning, we categorize all the prioritization in 4 groups: low, medium, high, and very high. In the next slide, we are going to see how this methodology is working. As I mentioned, we are going to have a table with the previous results. For example, in the first 3 columns, we are going to have exposure of population and exposure of facilities to any hazard. In this case, I borrow the example of Colombia to floods. The next variables are sociodemographic characteristics and healthcare facilities features. Also, we have the accessibilities, the time of accessibilities to facilities. Finally, using a mathematical technique, we get the prioritization that is in the last column. We sort this table based on prioritization, and we get the rank of prioritization. Finally, we group using machine learning this prioritization, and we get 4 groups that are in colors. And so we can finally identify in the map which region should be prioritized. Please, next. In a similar way, we get a prioritization to facilities. In facilities, we have first primary healthcare facilities, where the sociodemographic characteristics and healthcare facilities infrastructure features are a little different, but the methodology is too similar, and we get the top 10 of primary healthcare facilities in the country. In the next slide, we are going to see, the next slide, please. We are going to see the similar process, but to category 2 and category 3 facilities that are called hospital. So we can identify in Colombia what are the facilities that should be prioritized. These results is going to serve to decision makers like Minister of Health or Minister of Finance to take a better decision. Now I'm going to pass with Julia.
Thank you, John. Hi, my name is Julia Shikbaeva, and now I will dive deeper into the population vulnerability factors that are used in this prioritization analysis. My background is in economics, and prior to joining GFDRR, I worked as a research assistant at the Development Impact Evaluation Unit at the World Bank, where I conducted primary data analysis for an impact evaluation of a resilience program in South Sudan. Can I have the next slide? In my current role, I work on analyzing household survey data to identify population vulnerabilities in Cambodia and Mauritania and inform prioritization for resilient investments. In Cambodia, a country which is highly impacted by floods, there are currently only 9 shelters in the country, and many residents are being evacuated to shelters on roads like the one you see on the picture, which can be very unsafe. So the country DRM team that supports the National Committee for Disaster Management in Cambodia has requested our operational support to identify the population need to build new shelters. As John mentioned earlier, in order to inform prioritization for resilient investments, we look at population exposure to hazards, resilience of health system infrastructure in terms of locations of health facilities, types of services provided, and capacities in terms of number of beds, staff, and health workers. And the idea here is that more equipped health facilities and staff are likely to be more prepared to handle demand increases during and after a disaster. And finally, we look at different demographic and socioeconomic characteristics of the population, which is the main focus of my work. The idea here is to capture particular population vulnerabilities that would inform hazard risk from an integrated perspective. For example, elderly population is more vulnerable to extreme heat. Small children and people with disabilities are more vulnerable during evacuations. When identifying population vulnerability, we don't only look at it from the DRM perspective, but we also look at it from the health perspective. So we look at factors such as housing quality, access to sanitation, electricity and power, but also factors like vaccinations, prevalence of diseases, child nutrition, and others. To conduct this analysis, we have utilized the Demographic Health Survey dataset, which provides a wide range of information in the areas of health, nutrition, and population on a range of topics ranging from education, household assets, access to water and sanitation, to women and child health, and others. The program has been conducted over 90 years in more than 90 countries, approximately every 5 years, which allows us to have up-to-date information on the population. This data can also be useful to us because it's often representative on subnational levels and allows us to conduct analysis on a more granular level. Can we go to the next slide? The types of variables selected for the analysis differ from country to country. So we work closely with governments or country health or country DRM teams to determine country-specific population vulnerabilities to meet the needs of different rollback operations that we engage with. For example, if there is an ongoing conflict, a high share of migrants, indigenous groups, these all need to be accounted for when estimating population vulnerability. Preliminary set of variables is then selected and screened for variation across regions and correlation with each other. On the slide, you can see some of the indicators that were selected for the shelter project in Cambodia. And for example, on the right, you can see a graph that shows access to basic sanitation, which, as you can see, ranges greatly from 40 to 50% in the northeast of the country to almost full access to sanitation in the capital. The reason why we chose this indicator is because having low access to basic sanitation makes households more susceptible to flood-related health risks due to poor hand washing and safe food handling behavior, which makes them more vulnerable. Later, this, in combination with other socioeconomic variables, population exposure data to hazards, and health facilities data, is used to determine the overall risk level of each province. This now wraps the overview and examples of our technical assistance to our operations. Please feel free to contact us and reach out for any more details that you need. And now we will move towards global knowledge products and guidelines to be provided to internal task teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you to all my colleagues that have already described what has been done already in terms of analytical products. My name is Carmen Senia, and I work in this team, and I have been working before with the bank, with the DRM teams for Central America and also Africa. I have previously worked for my government as well with the National Center of Strategic Planning of Peru. So as I was saying, so in this part, the idea is of knowledge products is to convey the information that we collect from good practices globally. And then we identify which is the best conceptual framework that we can include these examples in. And finally, we have these products that can be useful to task teams to engage better with governments. We have a list of different projects. One of them is going to be worked with in collaboration with the BRR team. In this first product, we are going to include different considerations on how to have green, resilient, and inclusive health facilities in the whole cycle of the implementation of infrastructures, from planning to the operations of the health facility. A second guidance node is going to also be worked in collaboration with the EP&R team. And for this is a business continuity plan for health facilities. Third is the investment option navigation tool, also in collaboration with the emergency preparedness and response team. I'm going to explain a little bit more of those later. And finally, there's going to be a database where we're going to have information and a list of global experts that can be of use of all the teams that want to engage and deliver products that are related to health infrastructure and disaster risk management. In terms of the business continuity plans for health facilities, this is a first step, this is a first note that then is going to be developed further in collaboration with the health team. So this note aims to give information on how to ensure that critical operations and services of health facilities from different types are going to be provided in case of emergencies. So far, we've been analyzing the information from different sources, and we came up with three main components for this document. First, which are how do we define what is critical? Which one is a critical service? Then, how do we analyze the potential impact of different hazards to the delivery of those critical services? And third, we are going to also provide information we already have found of different templates that you can use to analyze the capacity of current health facilities. And finally, we're going to use health information and also give some examples per facility. Another effort is to how to go to the next step after using the scorecard assessment. Before, Dan was explaining about this tool that is very useful and has been used also in for CAT-DDOs. But then how do we put in practice and how do we have investment options? How do we identify those investment options in terms of emergency preparedness for these health facilities? So for this effort, we are combining information that we have already from the WHO, and also the information that was already developed by the EP&R team with the R response tool. So the combination of these two frameworks has given us information on the potential gaps that can be filled with investments and technical assistance lists that then can be of use of the task teams to improve the engagement of country teams. Thank you, and now I'm going to hand it over to Nana.
Thank you, Carmen. My name is Nanako Yamaguchi. I am introducing two works focusing on Japan's experience that is complementing global knowledge work that Carmen has just talked about. My background is in digital policy and technology implementation in the government. I have worked in the national government and the global tech firm. During my time at the Japanese government, I have experience being dispatched to a local town hall which evacuated from a nuclear plant disaster impacted area after the Great East Earthquake, Japanese earthquake. During the pandemic, I served as an advisor to the Cabinet Office of Japan and launched several digital tools to ease the impact of the pandemic. This Japan case study covers a wide range of initiatives related to both pandemic and natural disasters. I am from Japan and I already experienced 2 magnitude 7 level serious earthquakes in my lifetime. Japan is geographically a high-risk area, especially regarding earthquakes, so the society learned a lot and developed the systems and tools to make the country more resilient. Recently, due to climate change, like other countries, Japan also experienced extreme weather, which caused the serious floods, and the pandemic happened. We aim to combine unique and useful learnings from the Japanese emergency medical service system and distilling the relevant good practices and lessons for any peer countries who aim to strengthen the system. In collaboration with Tokyo DRM Hub and Tokyo Development Learning Center, we plan a study tour to Japan next year. Next slide, please. Each country has a different context and cultural background, so we don't expect that everything that Japan has done will be applicable to everywhere. In this report, we have tried to distill as many examples as possible that can be used as a common denominators. As you can see, we developed the Japan case study with these 5 pillars. I am not going to dive into the details, but we aim to make this work a valuable resource for you to develop ideas for policy installments, capacity building, and system development for resilient medical facilities and system in your concerned countries. Thank you. This is the end of the team's presentation, so I'll hand it over to Keiko and the Vikram. Thank you.
Thank you so much, the team, for the great presentation. We have 10 minutes for the Q&A. Do you have any, yeah, does anybody has any question? Okay, one question from Mickey. Yeah, please unmute yourself and then share your question.
Thank you so much for the great presentation. My question is whether your team has plans to make the database for role criticality and accessibility to public services available at the global level, for example, admin 1 level.
Thank you so much, Mickey, for your question. We have looked into the data sharing policies and requirements, as well as the security issues that goes with the criticality analysis. There are some concerns, and also some of the data for the country works on operational level is owned by the countries and owned by the ministries. So we are working with ITS to see what information can be put out as an additional layers of exposure. But the short answer is, for now, given like we are using over 20 different data sources that comes from the government, it still sits with the governments and our task teams.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think it was a lot of information. Please feel free to put your names in the chat, and we can have a follow-up conversations on related topics. I already received like 2 requests for business continuity plans and the criticality analysis. We will reach out to the teams as needed.
I see in the audience like around 30 people. I see, yeah, around 30 people online, and I think around 50% are from health TTLs. Is there any TTLs who have been working with the team already, or who has any interest to work with the team?
2 TTLs just met. They said that it's good that they met the whole team for the first time. I mean, the most business is being done on WhatsApp, so. No, I think like I want to thank the team. It was an experimental type of talk that everyone presents their work. We do appreciate that your patience of sitting through the talks. I mean, we don't have to fill the full hour, but you know the context now. You will have met all the team members that are like from very different backgrounds. And I think that has been enabled us to provide support to different teams from different sectors.
Just message came in from Priyanka. She said she's in touch with the team for the Yemen's work.
Yes, Priyanka, I owe you the connection with GFDRR FCD team. We had meetings with them as well, and like you will receive an email from us. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So I think we have 5 minutes left. So do you mind closing?
No, I don't. Thanks a lot. It was super helpful for me to get a deeper insight into the work that you all been doing and developing. I haven't had a chance to pay attention to it in that detail. So it's quite impressive, I think, what you have already developed. I have no doubt that it will continue to develop. I think it's obviously complicated, and it's obviously to some extent costly. I think it's impressive how the team has put together these different pieces and already can react somewhat nimbly on a number of things. There's going to be challenges opening up related to when you engage deeper with a health sector team or a DRM team. The first layer of analysis offers us an opportunity to do things at broad scale, answer some type of questions that are important to engage and to inform concepts. And then there's going to be opportunities in some engagements where a team wants more and where you need a deeper level of analysis in order to enable you to answer other types of questions. And I think some of the growth and the depth of the program is likely going to be developing around that second set, which is also exciting. It's part of us delivering impact. It's both engaging at scale, but also when needed, pulling in resources to engage in depth. But super exciting work. I look forward to continue to support it and follow it. And I look forward to continue to work with the health practice and see how we can be of as much support to them and their portfolio as possible. Not, of course, to not work with the transport guys and the DePool teams. We will also continue to work with them both through this work and other work we do. But obviously talking about shock resilient health systems ought to be, the health practice ought to be in the middle of where that value proposition is relevant. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks for the presentations and thanks a lot for the great work. With that, off to lunch here in DC.
Thank you so much.